Hello and welcome to the Integrity Sports Podcast, powered as always by Harper's Tree and Stump Removal. If you have any tree trimming, tree removal, or stump removal needs, our friends at Harper's Tree and Stump Removal have you covered. They can also haul rock and sand. They can do driveway work and can now do horizontal grinding of large wood debris piles. Give Keith a call at 229 314 2048 or at 229-938-2412. Harper's Tree and Stump Removal is the proud premier sponsor of the Integrity Sports Podcast.
Welcome to the Integrity Sports Podcast, covering local sports in the Southwest Georgia area, creating content that is factual, positive, and informative, promoting efforts by athletes, coaches, and sports administrators. Now, here's your host, Tim Estes.
Hello and thank you for joining us again on the Integrity Sports Podcast and making this a part of your weekly routine. If you're watching on YouTube, please be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you're watching on any other social media platform, we encourage you to like the video and share it with your friends. A few weeks ago, I was in a local grocery store and one of our citizens came up to me and asked, "Have you heard anything from Coach James Frey? I just wonder how he's doing, how his team's doing. Does he like it? Have you heard anything?" So today we're fortunate to have Coach James Frey as our guest with us. He is now the associate head coach of New Mexico State's women's basketball program. Coach Frey, man, thanks for joining me.
Well, Tim, thanks for having me. Always an exciting time for me to talk to you guys back home and catch up and it's been a weird week for me. I caught a case of COVID here. I don't know. I tell you that the travel stuff is nuts, and you're in different states every other day and stuff. And somewhere along the lines, I caught a little bit of COVID, so I've been kind of down and out until today. I started feeling a little bit better, so I was glad that this thing happened when it did. I've been kind of under the weather a little bit, but glad to be on with you and excited to talk about some Aggie hoops and some South Georgia hoops as well.
Absolutely, Coach. You were a part of our very first broadcast on the Integrity Sports Podcast, and a lot has changed since then. Tonight is our 50th episode. So you're number 1 and number 50. And some things have changed. Our program has taken off a little bit. We're now averaging nearly 2,000 views per week, which is really good in our area. And Coach, another thing that changed is you left what was one of the most successful women's basketball programs in the country at the JUCO level and moved on to the NCAA Division I level by taking your current position there at New Mexico State. First off, I want to know, how are you doing personally? And just tell us what life's like. Do you still keep up with people and things that are happening here in the Americus area?
I first off, I 100% keep up with my people back home. Americus, Georgia's home to me now. Always will be. Very special place in my heart in Americus. The people there, and I tell people all the time, Jimmy Whaley, a realtor there, had a post on Instagram the other day, and it talked about people not really knowing the area or understanding Americus. And I went on his post and I said, until you've been a part of that community, you really don't understand what it's like. And so I absolutely love the people of Sumter County. They were tremendous to me and my family for 11 years. I can't say enough about it. And I do, weekly, if not daily, I speak to people back home and keep up with everything. And I get David Finley sends me lunch texts of food because we used to eat lunch every day together. So I get those, and it's just my people back home, and I love it. And I will always be a part of that community for sure.
Well, how's life out in New Mexico?
It's different. I mean, it's the climate's different. It's 24 this morning, and I think we had some snow flurries last night. They never stick. But, the mountaintops, we got mountains all around us, and, the mountains have snow in the mountaintops now, and it could get up to 40 in the afternoon, but it could be really cold in the mornings. And so you get adjusted to the climate. And then in the summer, it's a dry heat, but it's 113 degrees sometimes. So it's very different than Americus. But the area is very similar in people. Very kind people. They welcomed us with open arms and have been really good to us. And my son Will lives out here with me, and so he's found it very welcoming as well. And so we've had a good time. The adjustment is the adjustment. The adjustment from junior college basketball to Division I basketball is great, and it's not necessarily the basketball, but it's the rule aspect of it and all the I's and T's you got to cross and dot, and transfer portal stuff and NIL stuff. And man, I tell you, news broke today that Nick Saban retired.
Saw that.
It didn't surprise me at all. And let me tell you, and I told somebody when they told me that, I said, I think you'll see Kirby Smart retire at 60. And that guy, before probably could have coached to 70 or 80 if he wanted to. But today's climate in the NCAA is brutal. And the fact that you have to spend, like we do it here, we have to spend time recruiting our current roster, or we're going to lose them to the portal. Somebody's going to come and offer them a bunch of money, and they're going to go.
Yeah.
So it's just a dynamic now that I think you're going to see livelihoods of coaches at this level. I think you're going to see them deteriorate. Our head coach here, Jerry Kill, you're an Auburn fan.
Yeah.
Had a phenomenal year here for us, and walked away from it. Said, that's it. I'm done with it. I mean, it's just become so cumbersome. There's just so many different things you've got to do, and it's just not coaching up kids and loving on kids anymore. There's so many different aspects of it, and I tell you what, the NCAA it's a monster now, and it's going to take a special person to stick with it for a long time.
Well, I'm kind of glad you went this route, because that leads into my next question. You had a really successful run here at South Georgia Tech. You competed in the GCAA and I don't know how many years consecutively going out to the national tournament. Now you make this transition to NCAA Division I level. James, I'm going to tell you what I've heard. I don't know that this is accurate. You correct me if I'm wrong. But in talking to the connections I have over at Auburn, it's like you wonder why there's so many assistant coaches on staffs. And they tell me it's because there's so much paperwork to keep up in compliance, in recruiting. Supposedly you have to document every single phone call that you make.
Every text.
Give me a good idea of what that's like.
No, they hit the nail on the head. It's beyond, it's a lot more than I thought. And there are in basketball, you can have up to 6 coaches now. It's not enough. It's just not enough. When you deal with the amount of travel we do, with the fact that every time we pick up a phone and call a young lady for a recruiting call, it's got to be documented. It's got to be uploaded into an app. I've got 7 apps on my phone that we have to use to monitor everything. And that's at our level. We're mid-major.
Yeah.
Like the high major staffs have an extra 4 or 5 support people that help do all that stuff. It's out of this world. And that's what I'm saying. I think, and the people at Auburn are right, but I think it's going to lead to a lot shorter lifespan of coaches at this level. Like, it's just, at the junior college level, I had great relationships with people all around the world that I would call, count on their word for kids, or I'd be able to see them on film and go, yeah, I love it. Let's bring them, coach them up, move them on. Nowadays, you've got to jump through so many hoops here, and it's not just here; it's the NCAA Division I level, and it's overwhelming the amount of stuff you've got to do. And I really do. And I've said this to people for the last 6 months, and it did not surprise me one bit when Coach Kill resigned. It did not retired. It did not surprise me a bit when Coach Saban retired, and it won't surprised me a bit when you start seeing it more and more and more and more, even assistant coaches moving on to different things, because the quality of life is so hard. Like, I'll give you a for instance. We played at UTA in Dallas the other day. So we get there Thursday. No, we get there Friday. We play Saturday. After we play Saturday, I fly out to recruit Saturday. I watch games Saturday, Sunday. New Year's Day, I fly back. And the day after, I get COVID. Like, it's just so much.
Yeah.
And it, but it's what's demanded. I mean, if you don't go see these young people, and if you're not spending the time recruiting them, you're not going to get them. And I don't care where you are, if you don't have the players, you're not going to win the games.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, if you're in 4 different states in 4 different days with 4 different temperatures and climates, and you're on planes with people that have who know what, you're bound to, stuff like this is bound to happen. And so I'm not being a Debbie Downer. I'm just being very real about the game nowadays. And if you're not flying charters, and if you're not flying private, then you're going to deal with a lot of this type stuff. And I think you're going to see the livelihood of coaches go downhill fast at this level.
He's always lived in Realville. That's Coach James Frey, the associate women's basketball coach at New Mexico State. Our show today is also brought to you by Marty McDonald State Farm Insurance. Marty's located at 925 Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard in Americus. You can reach him at 928-3686 or drop by and see Marty, Mary Lynn, or any of their fine staff and let them discuss your insurance needs. They can even do the discount double check to ensure that you're receiving all of the savings that are available to you. Thanks to Marty McDonald, State Farm Insurance, for sponsoring this segment of the Integrity Sports Podcast. And like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Coach, as you look back on your time in Americus at South Georgia Tech, I'd like to kind of hear, what are some of your fondest memories? Who are some of the people that you were really close to here?
I think first, just developing the relationships with my administration. I think back to Wally Summers, who is now retired at South Georgia Tech. Mr. Wally was one of the very first people to reach out to me. And I tell people this all the time, and this is not a lie. I was there by myself pretty much the whole time. Always had one of the men's assistants as my roommates. But if I ever was under the weather or anything, Mr. Wally and Miss Brenda would always, Coach, we're bringing you soup. We're going to bring you this. We're going to bring you that. I bet they bought me dinner 150 times in 10 years there. It was crazy. They just took me under their wing and kind of showed me Americus. I still have a key in my truck to their lake house. They gave it to me 10 years ago. They just really took me under their wing and really had kind of adopted me as one of their own. And I got to know their kids and grandkids. And I've gone hunting with their grandkids whenever they come to town, and just had a great relationship with them. Obviously, the administration at the school, Mike and Sue Ann Bird were always great to me. Dr. Watford was fantastic to me. Sparky Reeves, who hired me, and really, really, really looked after me those first 4 or 5 or 6 years. Sparky was a great friend. Miss Eileen was a great friend. Their family took me in and was very close to me. Just a lot of people. I mentioned David Findley became one of my best friends on campus. If I ever needed anything, I knew I could call on David, and David would be there for me. Terry Battle and Martha Arrington, still today speak to them all the time. I mean, they're just wonderful people. And Miss Martha's like my grandma, and Terry's like my big sister. She's older than me. So, she's like my big sister. And so they really, really helped me get adjusted to the area and accustomed to things. And that campus was great to me. People like Chief Stone, our campus police chief, was wonderful. Just a lot of just really behind the scenes people who just, if you ever needed anything, Don Smith, who was an assistant to the president when I started, I could always call on Don, and anything I needed, he was there for me for, and just really, really good people. I will always rave about the people of Americus and Sumter County. And off campus, you and Fun Time and all the people that we built relationships with our committee and doing things and just, you guys were always good supporters of us. And this list could go on and on and on, but I have people there like yourself that I still count dear friends. And I always look forward to getting back to the area.
Hey, I was at some meetings up in near Atlanta this week, Monday, Tuesday, and a part of the day today. And, those guys that I meet with through the Georgia Recreation and Park Association, they follow this podcast a lot and we stay in
Right.
touch. And one of the guys asked me, who's your guest tonight on the Integrity Sports Podcast? And I said, James Frey. And it happened to be Dadrian Cosby from over in Statesboro.
Statesboro, sure.
Yeah,
Big,
and of course,
Big D.
Daryl Hopkins, I know you did a lot of officiating with. So you've made a lot of good friends all around the state of Georgia.
Yeah, Daryl Hopkins still one of my best friends. We send each other funny text messages all the time. And that our first state championship game was Buford and Rome. And Rome wins it late. It's very close. And I turn to leave the field, and Rome's coach bumps into me. And the TV camera's on it. It looks like he's hugging me. And still today, I get pictures from my crew, from those guys, about that love affair I had with Rome's coach. And wouldn't know the guy if he walked in here today, but that picture still floats around on our crew 8 years later. But Daryl Hopkins is one of the, my best friends in the world too. And he's as good as it gets.
Coach, this may be premature to ask. I know you're only in year one, but as you look back at your career, you spent a lot of time over at Coastal Georgia, then here at South Georgia Tech. Now you're at the Division I level as an associate head basketball coach. Are there any aspirations in your mind of being a head coach again at that level?
That's hard. And it's hard for the reasons I mentioned earlier. Like, it's a different game at this level now than it was, when I had former players go and they just had 3 assistant coaches and they just went and played. They didn't have all these apps and this portal stuff, and they didn't have NIL and all the other mess that you've got the compliance stuff, and didn't have all that back then. My head coach now, Jody Adams, who's been great to me, and I have learned a tremendous amount in 8 months. Like, there's zero doubt in my mind, if I become a head coach again, regardless of level, I'm going to be a much better head coach because of what I've learned here in 1 year. Like, no doubt about it. She has taught me a tremendous amount about X's and O's, details in the game of basketball and people. Like, she played for Pat Summitt at Tennessee. She was a 5'4" point guard on the national championship team. So she got it. She gets it honestly. And she is very open about sharing what she's learned and what she knows. And she has been tremendous to me. And whether it's Division I, whether it's Division II or junior college, I do want to be a head coach again one day. I think I have a lot to give as a head coach still. Especially with what I have learned here. And I'm not against. Somebody asked me the other day, is it D1 or bust? And absolutely not. Where can I make an impact on young people's lives? And if it's at junior college again, so be it. I just want to be where I can help continue to change young people's lives. And if it's at junior college, I'm all for it. If it's at junior college, it's going to be in the Southeast, though. I can tell you that. My next move is going to be in the Southeast. I can tell you that. I have a desire to be back closer to home. Coach Adams, who's from Tennessee, has a desire to be back closer to Tennessee, where she's got a mother and family. And so, I think we're all on the same page. Just see where God leads us here in the next 6 or 8 months. And, I'll close no doors that he opens. So, I'm willing and able to listen to anybody who ever wants to talk to me.
Our program tonight is being brought to you by One Digital Solutions. They are a steward of business growth and personal development. Their insurance, financial, and HR platforms provide you with a personalized, tech-enabled solution for a contemporary work-life experience. One Digital resolves real problems for your business and for your employees. They do that by fusing together customized solutions that address things like employee benefits, HR, and financial services. It's really everything all in one. It's One Digital. Contact our friend Will Peterson at 229-347-6289. One Digital is a proud sponsor of the Integrity Sports Podcast. Coach, we haven't talked about your current team. Tell me a little bit about the current Aggie squad and how you're doing this year and what's the outlook.
I tell you, it's been a dang roller coaster. I can't think of yet a time where we've had a whole team healthy and together. We had two of our transfer kids, Fem Sikuzani, who played for me at South Georgia Tech, then went to Texas. She had to get a waiver to get her fifth year, and she didn't get it until, I don't know, 7 or 8 games in, 6 games in. And then Fanta Gasama, who was with me last year, who signed with Arizona but had some stuff going at Arizona, transferred here before the school year started. We just got her cleared right at Christmas to be able to start playing. So we're just now starting to get to full strength. Luce Rosing, who was with us last year as a point guard, has played the 3-4 for us and has had a really good year. Molly Kaiser, who's our best returning player, preseason all-conference, has been battling some back stuff. We've dealt with sickness, all that stuff. All that being said, I think we are 6-8, 0-1 in conference, but we're just getting going in conference. Need to get everybody healthy and on the same page. A ton of potential. When we've got some young ladies who can play, we can put the ball in the basket. They play hard. They buy in. They're fun to be around. They're a good group. It's just a matter of trying to get that cohesiveness together now, because like I said, we haven't been together really at all. And so now that we're starting to get that group together, practices are critical. We've got to have good practices. We've got to have good buy-in and just deal with the rigors of the travel of Conference USA.
Hey, we try to talk about when we line these things up. I'll say, Coach Frey, here's kind of the route I'm going to go. I got one question to ask that we haven't talked about just because I know you so well.
No problem.
When you were here, you had a passion for deer hunting.
Love it.
I know that. And not really sure what that's like out in New Mexico, but have you had a chance to do any hunting out there?
It's no good. So out here, there's great hunting. There's mule deer, there's elk, there's things like that. No whitetail. So you got to draw a deer tag in March to even have the opportunity to hunt one during the season, which is about 3 weeks long.
Oh my.
So I missed that window completely. I've seen deer, I've seen elk beside the road. I've seen mule deer, big ones. One of our assistants has a ton of them right outside her house, mule deer. But I can't hunt anything. So, I've gone back to Georgia a couple of times on vacations or trips or whatever, and spent a couple of days in the tree stand and maybe killed a couple of hogs or something. And I saw a bunch of deer, not the ones I wanted. But I tell you, you want to talk about, I got my grandbaby, I got my family, and then I got deer hunting, and those three things in that order. I sure do miss it, because that was my getaway. I mean, I went and relaxed, and I didn't care if I saw 10 deer or no deer. Me and God and Mother Nature got to hang out. And so that was always a special time for me. And I don't have that time here.
So folks, if you're watching this program from anywhere in the Southwest Georgia area and you've got some hunting land, Coach Frey comes back to this area a few times a year, and he would definitely appreciate you letting him hunt there.
I would love an invite, and I promise I'll respect your property. I promise.
Hey, Coach, one of the things that has not changed about this program is how we end our program each week. And that's by asking our guests to talk a little bit about that support network behind the scenes, whether that's your family, your friends, but what you do is a grind, and we get that. And you need folks that when things haven't gone well, can pick you up, and when they have gone well, they can celebrate with you. Tell us who those folks are for James Frey.
Well, my family back home, I've got that's the same group, my same support group I've always had. With now, in addition of my little grandson, believe it or not, I FaceTime him about 4 times a day,
Yeah.
and he's the first one, and he hears that FaceTime ringing, and by the time whoever it is that I'm calling hits send, that he's running to it. And so he and I have great conversations. I don't care how bad my day goes. That joker always lifts me up. And he always has that smile on his face. And now he's starting to say my name a little bit, grandpa a little bit. And so now we're really just having a great time. And my family support system has always been my rock. And I'm fortunate to have my son Will out here with me. And I don't know, honestly, if I could have done this if he hadn't come. Just to be this far away from everybody. But, he comes to all our games, and he's just like he was at South Georgia Tech. He hadn't been kicked out yet, but I can hear him up there in the stands. And, he's my sounding board because he's been to a million of my games at South Georgia Tech and even at Coastal Georgia. And so he's my sounding board a lot, and I can bounce things off of him because he knows how I am as a coach, and to get his opinion on things, that helps me a lot too. But my whole family's been just super supportive and fantastic, and hopefully I can get us all back together one day soon. Close.
It's been awesome to have Coach James Frey with us. Thanks for being our guest. It's always good catching up with you, my friend.
Likewise.
James, I know you're on social media in certain places. I'm sure at a school the size of New Mexico State, there's probably a platform that people can go and watch the Aggies. Tell us how folks can check you out and check out the Aggies.
Well, they can watch our games. All of our games are on ESPN Plus. So you can catch our games on ESPN Plus, every game we play. I'm on Twitter and I'm on Instagram. Those are the 2 social media outlets I'm on. I think it's just at Coach Frey, I think, or maybe James Frey. I swear my kids set them up for me when I set them up a long time ago. I don't even remember. But you can find me.
Right.
Right. I just click on the button and it's always on. So, but you can you can follow me there. And then, at New Mexico State Women WBB is where you can find us on Instagram and on Twitter as well.
Again, we want to thank Coach James Frey. Hey, number 1 episode, number 50 episode. You got to promise me when we hit 100, you'll come back and do that as well.
I promise. And what's crazy is when you mentioned number 1, I remember it like it was yesterday, sitting at my desk at South Georgia Tech. I remember it like it was just yesterday. It's crazy.
And we want to thank you for watching the Integrity Sports Podcast and making it a part of your weekly routine. Again, let me encourage you, hit the subscribe button. We had over 2,400 views last week, picked up about 60 more subscribers. We're trying to reach that 1,000 subscriber mark. So help us to get there. Again, if you're watching on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or Twitter, any of those, hit the like button and share that video. We look forward to seeing you again next week. For my friend, Coach James Frey, I'm Tim Estes.